All right, hello, good people, and welcome to Economics and Personal Finance. We are going to call this class Econ instead of EPF because it's less syllables and it's easier, and that's our business, okay? So in our Econ class, we have 10 units, and this is the first of the 10 units, and we have called this one Intro to Econ. So everything you need to know in order to get started. All right, so what in the world are economics and personal finance? Well, economics at its core is the study of choices in a world with unlimited wants and limited resources. Okay? So anybody on the planet has an unlimited number of things or ideas or goals that they are allowed to want. However, the resources that are floating around on the planet are limited. Okay? So for example, I have a to-do list that has 152 things on it. However, I only have 24 hours in a day. Time is a resource and it is limited. So I have to make sure that my to-do list matches the resources that are present and accounted for. Now, flipping on down to personal finance, this is having the tools and knowledge to be financially stable and literate. Okay? So having the tools and knowledge to be financially stable means that you are not living paycheck to paycheck. You're not balling out at the beginning of the month when you get paid, and then you're eating PB&Js for the last 2 weeks before your next paycheck comes in. Being financially literate does not just mean that you can read what's happening. If you are literate in a language, that means that you can read and understand what is happening in that language. We want to make sure that by the time you graduate high school, you not only understand money, you understand how it impacts your life, and you can comprehend what to do with it besides just spend it at a store. All right, so why is this important? Why in the world do we need a whole class just for this particular subject? And just as a general side note, I like memes a lot, so go ahead and get used to it. There are going to be a lot of them in your life. Okay, so as a side note about your note sheets, you don't necessarily have to copy down every single bullet for these next 3 sections on why this class is important, but if you need to go ahead and copy down whatever you think is going to help you remember it, I would strongly suggest that, okay? And just be reminded that notes are 10% of your grade. So your choices are all about economics, okay? You've made economic choices in your life today, guaranteed, okay? This impacts your education. Should I go to college? Should I go to trade school? Should I just step out on my own and be an entrepreneur? What's my income like? Do I need to have just a paycheck? Do I inherit money? What does that even mean, okay? So your choices that you make with your income, with your careers. Should I try to go ahead and be a rapper? Should I try to be an economist? Should I try to be an engineer? Do I want to be a firefighter? Do I want to be a doctor? All right, all of that is an economic choice. Taxes are an economic choice as well. If I take this job, am I going to have to pay more taxes than I am right now or less? If I move to this city, am I going to pay more taxes or less? Okay, what you do with your time is also an economic choice. Do I watch one more episode of whatever show I'm watching on Netflix, or do I go ahead and go to bed? Do I click snooze one more time on my alarm clock before I get out of the bed? Okay, the meals that you make. Do I have enough stuff in the kitchen to make this? Do I need to go ahead and go to cookout instead? Okay, your energy. Do I have the time for this? Is this my business? Do I need to make this my business? Do I have it in my spirit today to accomplish whatever it is? Okay, and then clothing, all right? Do I need to wash clothes? Do I have enough to do whatever I want to do? Okay, do I have enough extra workout clothing to go to the gym or not? Okay, your personal finance is also extremely important. Knowing how to make a budget is what adults do. That's what grown people do, okay? Paying your taxes, paying them on time, not being a person who pays their taxes late, because that means that you get your name printed in the newspaper. This is a real thing. This is real life, okay? Don't do that. Don't be that person. All right, your disposable income. How much money do I actually have after taxes come out? Okay, so retirement. Do I want to work until I'm 85 and have one foot in the coffin, or would I like to retire a little earlier? Okay, what is insurance? What does that even mean? Do I need to have it? Helpful hint, the answer is yes. Okay, and your assets. What are some things that bring you money? What are some things that don't bring you money? Okay, additionally, it's important enough to talk about the global economy. All right, you as a person living in Pitt County, living in Brunswick County, living in Chicago, living in Los Angeles, New York City, wherever you are, you contribute to the global economy. So, how do you contribute to a global economy? First of all, as a person, how do we as a state contribute to the global economy? And how do we as a country contribute to the global economy? All right, what's our economy doing? Are there a lot of people walking around without a job? Are we in a recession? Are people getting laid off? Can I buy a house right now? Is it cheap for me to do so? All right, if I go to another country, how much of my American dollar can I use to buy stuff in, say, Peru or South Africa or India? Okay, and in the stock market, what does that look like? Is Amazon doing real well? Is Google doing okay as a business? And how do we know? All right, all of that we're going to talk about in personal finance. But first, let's talk about vocab. Now, with regards to resources, things that you can use, the key to economics, the key is scarcity. Please say that out loud. Scarcity. Swish it around in your brain a little bit, think about it. Scarcity is having more wants than resources. And if you are like, wait, we already said that. You're right, because that's the key to economics. That's the definition we just wrote down for economics. All right? So every single person on the face of this planet, even if they are the richest person on this planet, even if you're Jeff Bezos, the guy who owns Amazon, he still has more wants than he has resources. If he keeps writing checks, eventually his bank account is going to say zero. All right? There is no person on the face of this planet who has unlimited resources. Now, they might have a lot more than I do as a public school teacher, but that does not mean that they are unlimited. Okay? This is the key to economics. This is the way. All right, so supply, speaking of resources, is the amount of resources producers, people who make stuff, are willing to make. Is Amazon willing to make 500 of this shirt? Is Nike willing to make 5,000 pairs of these new J's? Are they willing to make 50 pairs of these new J's? Okay, and how does that impact how much they can sell them for? All right, and now demand. This is the amount of resources a consumer, a person who uses a resource, is willing to purchase or use. Do I need another pair of Vans, or will the 5 that I have now suffice? Okay, so for demand also, do I really need that extra thing of toilet paper right now? Do I want to have to fight a Karen off in order to get toilet paper at the store? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, so supply and demand work together to establish how much of something is available to us. And we'll dig into that in much more detail in Unit 8. All right, and speaking of producers, they are companies or people who create goods and services. So like Amazon or your local barber, okay? They are both producers. All right, consumers are people who use goods and services. So you and I. All right, now if we are at work, we are producing because we are providing a service to someone or providing a good to someone. But if we are at home and I'm, say, watching Netflix, I'm a consumer because I am using the service that Netflix provides. And speaking of goods and services, what even are those? Goods are something that you can hold, and services are something that you pay someone to do. So a good, for example, would be like some Vans or markers or one of the cars from Bad Boys 2 or a cookout tray or Captain America's shield. That would be a good. Now, if Cap and the whole squad get together and save the world for payment, that is a service. Okay? So the stuff that they're using would be goods, but them actually going out and saving the world would be a service. Okay? Uber is a service. Your barber is a service. Going on an airplane. If you buy the plane ticket, all right, the actual good would be the plane that you're standing on or you're sitting in. You should be sitting down on a plane. That's crazy if you're standing up. All right, but you getting from one place to another on Delta or American or however you fly is a service. All right, now let's talk about needs versus wants, okay? So needs are resources that are necessary for survival. Food, water, shelter, air, place to raise your young. That's it, all right? In order for your heart to keep beating and your lungs to keep flowing with oxygen, that's all you really need. Now, that's not necessarily saying that you're going to have a comfortable life. That just means you're going to survive. All right. Now, wants are things that you have for comfort. We, especially in American society, use these interchangeably. I need a new pair of jeans. I need a new water bottle. Not necessarily. You want a new pair of jeans or you want a new water bottle. So making sure we're precise in our language is going to be key for us. All right, so speaking of all these resources, how do we even use them? How do we know what needs to go on the shelf? What needs to not go on the shelf? Well, in order to do this and figure out this question, we answer 4 economic questions because the way we answer these questions in the United States, definitely not the same way that people use resources in North Korea. Okay, so first of all, what is being produced? Are we producing things that are for comfort, or are we just meeting needs? Are we meeting needs or wants? What are we doing? The second economic question is who is producing it? Is the government putting out all the stuff that we need versus want, or is it private businesses and private entrepreneurs? Number 3 is how is it being produced? All right, are we doing this on like a large scale? Are we doing this in a factory? Are people making things by hand? How are we producing goods and services? And then number 4 is how much is being produced. Do we need to have 35 boxes of Frosted Flakes on the shelf at once, or maybe just 2? Okay, so how we use resources depends very much on our environment, like where we grew up, who we grew up with, what type of house we grew up in, what neighborhood, what government we grew up under. So the way that people in North Korea use resources is going to be different than how Americans use resources. All right, and also with regards to resources, you can either have assets, which are things that add to your profit, add to your bank account, or liabilities, things that take away from your profit. And we'll dig into those a little bit later. But we just want to give you kind of the basic vocab for now. All right, so the impact of economics. How in the world does this impact your life? We've discussed that a little bit. So how do your choices with resources impact you long term? Is having more money actually beneficial to you? Okay. If you have more money, do you have more problems? Is that correct or no? And I'm going to pop these 2 videos into our discussion board so we can talk about them. All right, so what do they mean for you? They mean your decision-making processes. They're how you plan ahead, if you plan ahead at all. They mean your stability and success. What does that look like for you? What you think is success might not be what I think success should look like. And we're going to have 2 different life paths, and that's fine. All right, economics also impacts your influences and your priorities and your perception versus reality. When I was younger, I thought that being successful meant that you had a 2-story house, that you had an upstairs to your house. You were like big ballin', shot calling if your house had an upstairs. I don't know if y'all felt the same way, but that's just what I thought was successful in the past. Now, me personally, I might think that just having a house, regardless of how many floors it has or how many rooms it's got, owning a house might make you successful, or being content in your job and not being miserable every day is successful, or maybe owning an Audi makes you successful. Maybe going to college is what you think is success. It depends on you as a person, okay? So what you think is successful versus reality, what you actually can and cannot afford. All right, and that concludes our intro to economics.